YouTubers, Janet Melody here, working through A Course in Miracles, the workbook. If you've not heard of this book, then I really recommend buying it, or you can check it out online at ACIM.org. Find all the information there. It's basically a book about transcending from fear into love. So it's really changing our minds from the way we see the world, this illusion that we've all created very differently, different ways. But we're not seeing the truth. And this book is about getting us to see the truth, to see life as it is now, not from the place of all the stories of the past and the future. There's so much to it. I can't explain it all. So I'm working through the lessons. I'm on lesson 4 today. I'm going to read out the lesson like I always do and the text that goes with it, and leave you with it from there. So let's get started. So lesson 4. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. Unlike the preceding ones, these exercises do not begin with the idea for the day. In these practice periods, begin with noting that thoughts that are crossing your mind for about a minute. Then apply the idea to them. If you are already aware of unhappy thoughts, use them as subjects for the idea. Do not, however, select only the thoughts you think are bad. You will find if you train yourself to look at your thoughts that they represent such a mixture that, in a sense, none of them can be called good or bad. This is why they do not mean anything. In selecting the subjects for the application of today's idea, the usual specificity is required. Do not be afraid to use good thoughts as well as bad. None of them represent your real thoughts, which are being covered up by them. The good ones are but shadows of what lies beyond, and shadows make sight difficult. The bad ones are blocks to sight and make seeing impossible. You do not want either. This is a major exercise and will be repeated from time to time in somewhat different form. The aim here is to train you in the first steps towards the goal of separating the meaningless from the meaningful. It is a first attempt in the long-range purpose of learning to see the meaningless as outside you and the meaningful within. It is also the beginning of training your mind to recognize what is the same and what is different. In using your thoughts for application of the idea for today, identify each thought by the central figure or event it contains. For example, this thought about blank does not mean anything. It is like the things I see in this room, on this street, and so on. You can also use the idea for a particular thought that you recognize as harmful. This practice is useful, but is not a substitute for the more random procedures to be followed for the exercises. Do not, however, examine your mind for more than a minute or so. You are too inexperienced as yet to avoid a tendency to become pointlessly preoccupied. Further, since these exercises are the first of their kind, you may find the suspension of judgment. You may find the suspension of judgment in the connection with thoughts particularly difficult. Do not repeat these exercises more than 3 or 4 times during the day. We'll return to them later. Okay, so that's it. That's the lesson for today. These thoughts do not mean anything. They are like the things I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place. So it's about looking at our thoughts, looking at them without judgment, and just realizing that they don't mean anything. There's nothing to them. Not a good thought, not a bad thought, not an indifferent thought. Any thought that comes into your mind, they mean nothing. There's nothing to them. They do not mean anything. And getting to a place of meaningful things inside, as opposed to all this meaninglessness that we have outside of ourselves. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting one to stay aware of. Sometimes you do, well, often you do, just go into that mind and disappear off. You know, you might be in a room with somebody, but you might be a million miles away thinking goodness knows what. So when you're in that state, try and remember this, that these thoughts do not mean anything. And you're choosing to follow them, whatever they are, however you're thinking. So let go and let the meaningless thoughts disappear. And then I'm sure, you know, if you can do that even just for a minute, you'll find that minute of peace. So yeah, another beautiful lesson from A Course in Miracles, and I'll leave you with that today, and check in again tomorrow with lesson 5. Thanks everyone. Bye.